Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's lecture we'll learn about one of the tissues of the body, which is the connective tissue. So let's begin. The connective tissue is one like any other tissue in the body, like epithelial or muscle or nervous tissue, and it develops from mesoderm, and it's present everywhere in the body, even in the CNS. We studied before the coverings of the brain and the spinal cord, the dura, arachnoid, and pia. These are connective tissue. The components of the connective tissue, the three major components are the fibers, which are collagen and elastic fibers, cells of the connective tissue, which are the fibroblasts, adipocytes, mast cells, leukocytes, macrophages, all this in a ground substance that holds all this, the fibers and the cells together. These are the components of the connective tissue. Types of connective tissue. It's classified into connective tissue proper and special connective tissue. The connective tissue proper is subdivided into loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, which is further divided into dense regular and dense irregular connective tissue. So loose and dense connective tissue, and the dense is subdivided into regular and irregular according to the arrangement of fibers it's composed of. You can differentiate between the loose and dense connective tissue by the ratio of the ground substance to the fibrous tissue. In loose connective tissue, the ratio of the ground substance is much more compared to the dense connective tissue. And the dense regular connective tissue, it's a tough tissue and found in the tendons and ligaments. It's composed of collagen fibers arranged in parallel fashion, so it distributes or strength in one direction, while the dense irregular connective tissue, irregular because of the fibers are arranged in multiple directions, so it distributes the strength in all directions. The special connective tissue is reticular connective tissue, adipose connective tissue, which is the fat of the body, the cartilage, the bone, and the blood. The blood is considered a fluid connective tissue. Other kinds of connective tissue include fibrous, elastic, and lymphoid connective tissue. Fibroareolar connective tissue is a mix of, from the name, a mix of fibrous and areolar tissue. Fibromuscular is the same, a mix of fibrous and muscular tissue. And when injured, the closure of the wound, it starts by formation of a special type of connective tissue called granulation tissue. It's essential for the healing of wounds. Now, the fibers of the connective tissue are composed of type 1 collagen fibers, and it constitutes 25% of the total protein content in the body. Bone and cartilage, as mentioned before, are part of special connective tissue, and it's considered to be supportive connective tissue. It supports the body, while the blood and lymph are considered fluid connective tissue. So pay attention to this fact, please, because we will study blood as a tissue after we are done with the connective tissue. These are pictures of different types of connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue. Observe the wide spaces in the tissue present. The adipose tissue, it's composed of fat, but here it appears as spaces because it's dissolved in alcohol while preparation. But these are the fat cells, and notice the peripheral placed nuclei pushed by the content of fat in each cell. The fibrous connective tissue, observe the arrangement of fibers in the tissue. Of course, the blood, with the RBCs and white BCs. You're familiar with the bone haversian system. This is the osseous tissue. And you're familiar also with the cartilage, the cells, chondrocytes lying in pairs of lacunae. As you can see here, this is a piece of hyaline cartilage. This is a piece of skin to show you or to demonstrate the loose connective tissue, loose type connective tissue in the hypodermis. Instantly you can observe the parallel arrangement of this dense regular connective tissue because the fibers are arranged parallel to each other. Here the fibers are arranged in all directions, so this is a piece of dense irregular connective tissue. This is also part of cartilage, the lacunae of the chondrocytes apparent. This is a trabecular bone surrounded by bone marrow. This is the osseous tissue, and this is of course a specimen of blood, sample of blood. Another picture showing the adipose tissue with the fatty cells and peripheral eccentric nuclei, flat nuclei pushed by the content of fat. Now here you can instantly observe the wide spaces in this tissue. This is areolar. That's why it's called areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue. And this is a specimen of loose connective tissue, which with much lesser spaces than the areolar connective tissue. The characteristics of the ground substance of the connective tissue, it's clear and colorless, and composed of viscous fluid that contains glycosaminoglycans and proteoglycans, a mix of carbohydrates and proteins, to be precise, to fix the collagen fibers in the intercellular spaces. Examples of non-fibrous connective tissue is adipose tissue, which is the fat, and the blood of the body. The adipose tissue acts like a cushion against trauma to the body, among other functions of the fatty tissue. Fatty tissue is concerned with heat production as well, like brown fat, for example, present in the backs of the children between the scapulae. It's mentioned that no collagen fibers in the fat, but when studying the fat of the body, especially in the palm of hand or sole of feet, you will find it under pressure in the palps of finger, for example. This pressure is derived from the fact that there are collagen fibers separating the fat into loculi to give it the pressure needed to withstand trauma and for better handling of object. These fibrous tissue keep fat tissue under compression in place. Now, for the types of fibers, we have collagen fibers. The purpose of collagen fibers, it binds bones and other tissues to each other. It's present in the tendons, skin, cornea, cartilage, blood vessels, you name it, gut, bone, intervertebral discs. Elastic fibers, elastic means it's stretchable. So you expect it to be found in structures that need recoil, like the arteries and lungs. Location in the extracellular matrix. Reticular fibers, they are act as a scaffold for other cells, and means they form the framework upon which the cells are arranged and put, like the parenchyma of organs, including liver, bone marrow, and lymphatic organs. Function of connective tissue: loose and dense irregular connective tissue have an important role in providing a medium for oxygen and nutrients to diffuse across them. That's why they are loose and dense irregular. From the capillaries to cells, and from the cells to the capillaries. From the cells to the capillaries means to get rid of the waste substances from the cells. They also allow organs to resist stretching and tearing forces. Dense regular connective tissue, on the other hand, it's mentioned that it's found in tendons and ligaments and aponeurosis, so it's a tough tissue. And also found in highly specialized organs such as the cornea. If you look at the arrangement of fibers in the cornea, you will find it as if you used a ruler to arrange the fibers. They are parallel to each other. Elastic fibers, they are composed of elastin and fibrillin proteins and provide resistance to stretch forces. They are found in the walls of the blood vessels and certain ligaments, like the ligament of the vertebral column, which is the ligamentum flava, the yellow ligament that connects the lamina of the adjacent vertebrae. In hemopoietic, the tissue, which is the tissue responsible for the production of blood elements, and lymphatic tissues, reticular fibers made by reticular cells provide the stroma or parenchyma upon which the structure of these tissues is laid upon. Mesenchyme is a type of connective tissue found in developing organs of embryos, and it's capable of differentiation into all types of mature connective tissue. Other type of undifferentiated connective tissue is Wharton's jelly, present in the umbilical cord. It's a mucous connective tissue and important for the structure of the umbilical cord, Wharton's jelly. The clinical significance: well, some of the diseases that affects connective tissue, like neoplasms, for example, include sarcomas. We studied in the epithelium tissue, they are called carcinomas. And malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor is an example. Congenital diseases such as Marfan syndrome and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome also affect connective tissue. Myxomatous degeneration, it's weakening of connective tissue. An autoimmune disease called the mixed connective tissue disease. Systemic lupus erythematosus, it's a major autoimmune disease of connective tissue. Scurvy, caused by deficiency of vitamin C. It's necessary for the synthesis of collagen fibers, an essential element in connective tissue. And last but not least, fibromuscular dysplasia is a disease of the blood vessels that leads to an abnormal growth in the arterial wall. Well, that was a hint about the nature, constituents, and function of the connective tissue. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture, and thank you very much for watching.